Alright, in today's video we are going to modify and upgrade this Jaymz hardtail single pickup Strat. Let's get started. Alright, before we begin, I do have a couple things I want to discuss. Number one is, do you have to upgrade a guitar kit? And my answer is no, you do not have to, although you absolutely do know how to do at least a basic setup. Every kit I've ever bought, at least now 5-6 of them, have required some kind of basic setup. You got to know how to adjust the truss rod. You got to know how to take care of the nut, file it, sand it, whatever you need to do. And without that knowledge, they're virtually unplayable. With that knowledge, though, they're very playable. All right, this is the guitar we're working with. At the time of this video, it was just under 80 bucks on Amazon. This is how it comes packaged, and this is what it looks like when all the parts have been removed. The body is mahogany. It comes with a loaded pick guard, and the neck is maple with a laurel fretboard. All right, the body has been disassembled. I always like to start with the neck. It's arguably the most important part since it's what you interact the most with. So we're going to make sure that it's level, and then we're going to check to see if the frets are all level. And if not, we'll address them according to the severity. I think it's actually pretty good because I've been playing. I don't know if I said this, but I've been playing the heck out of this thing. I'm having a blast with it, so I'm really excited to get this thing modified. But anyway, I think this is going to be actually pretty good. But there's some things I know that I want to do. I want to do a little bit of fretwork. The edges have just a few places where it's sharp. I want to make sure that they're level, and if not, obviously we'll need to do a little bit of filing and crowning and all that fun stuff. So let's get started. All right, before you even consider doing any fretwork, you have to make sure that the neck is perfectly level, and that's what the tool in my hand is specifically made for. One side's the Fender scale, the other side's the Gibson scale, in case you're curious. And even though I leveled it in the assembly video, you still want to go back and make sure that it's still in the same place. You know, I've been playing the guitar. Any kind of temperature changes, humidity changes can affect that. And now I'm using a fret rocker to see if there are any individual frets that are higher than the rest. I have a Sharpie on standby so I can quickly identify any problemed areas. You can see here I've identified a problem area, marked it, and now I'm going after it with the crowning tool, which is something you can do to sort of cheat if you only have 1 or 2 frets that are out of alignment. With the tall fret issue solved, what I am doing now is using a file to very gently round the very edges. Just go slow and take your time so you don't accidentally file away some of the fretboard. You can always put down some tape if you're concerned. Alright, up next is polishing those frets. You can see here I have what are called fret erasers. They basically come in 3 grits. They look just like the old-fashioned pencil erasers, and you just go from lowest to highest grit, making sure you do both sides and the top. And I also like to run each of the grits along the edges since I just filed off those fret ends as well. The final thing I like to do is hit it with some quadruple aught steel wool, which works surprisingly well to polish those frets. I forgot to film it, but I did condition the fretboard with a little F1 oil. Alright, so the neck is done and ready to be finished. I left all the tools out I used. You know, don't sleep on this step. I mean, it's not the funnest thing in the world. But, you know, making sure that the frets are level, polished, and you saw I even kind of took them down a little bit on the edges. I think I said earlier, I mean, I've played this guitar a lot, and it's really fun. It's fantastic. But, you know, there are a few things that I noticed, and I did know somewhere down here was going to be a high fret, and there was, and I addressed it. Amazingly, though, there was almost no issues with the frets. There was a few sharp ones, so I went ahead and addressed the high one, and you know, this is where it'll vary from project to project. If there's a whole bunch of them that are out, then, you know, I'd get my level, which has some sandpaper, different grits on both sides, and do the whole thing. But in this case, there was really only one that was egregious, and instead of even trying to do that, I just went right with the crowning tool and just kept working it until I got it where it needed to be. Now that the neck is ready for finishing, I need to decide what to do with this body. My last two Leo Jaymz kits, the body was pre-sealed, meaning it was ready to be painted, which is great if you're gonna paint it, but a total pain if you want to stain it, because the stain won't penetrate. So I don't know for sure if that's the case with this one, but I have every reason to believe so. One of the things that I really like about this body is its weight. This is a super light body. It's advertised as mahogany, and maybe it's some kind of variation of it, but I've never had a mahogany body that was this light, so I don't know. Doesn't matter though. As I've been staring at it for the last few days, I came to the conclusion that I kind of like the look of the wood. It's actually pretty nice. It's got a little figurine. You can definitely see where the line is, so it's not perfect. There's one, there's two, there's at least three pieces. That's very obvious, and if you're not sure how to tell, just look on the end. That makes it even more obvious. Pretty much everybody that does these Tom DeLong strats paints them some kind of pastel, odd, surfy color, but I've already done that. This was also either a kit or a parts caster, I can't remember, but I did the, you know, make it an oddball kind of a heavier guitar. This has got JB and Jazz Seymour Duncan's in it. This is, by the way, really fantastic guitar. But I digress. So to paint this in the usual pastel colors is a bit repetitive for me since I've already covered that ground. But I do have an idea. I'm going to try something I've never tried that probably will not work. But you can always sand it off and try again. So first thing I need to do is I need to go out and give it a little bit of a sanding. The body's pretty smooth, but I did notice when I was playing it, there's just a few rough places. So I'm not going to go overboard, but I am going to do a little bit of sanding just to fix some of those issues. So out to the garage we go. Since I'm not trying to strip the sealer, I'm just going to do a light hand sand with a 120 followed by a 320. And again, very light pressure just to smooth it out. And the only thing worse than sanding is watching somebody do it. So I'm going to skip ahead here. But before I go, as this is a mahogany or mahogany type wood, it's very porous. So I'm trying to actually leave the sealer in there, or at least most of it, because it would be very difficult to paint if I didn't. Just, you could see those pores. At this point in the process, I've narrowed down my finishing options to 3, and none of them involved directly staining the wood, hence leaving the sealer. All right, I did some light sanding on this. There's no way this is mahogany, at least not the mahogany we know and love from certain big brand guitars. This is really soft, really light. So I looked it up. I'm guessing here, and I'm probably going to slaughter the pronunciation, but I'm guessing this is akume, something like that, which is a variation of mahogany, but it's very soft and a lighter color, which this seems to to fit the bill. Not only that, but it's actually just lighter in general. So I think this is a Kume for what it's worth. Now, back to what we were doing. So light sanding, 120, 320, and I'm not trying to remove the sealer coat. So here's my dumb idea, but I think I'll know whether it'll work before I even try to apply it, is a lot of guitar manufacturers actually put the tint in the top coating, not actually into the wood. So what I was wondering is if I could use a dye, aniline dye, it's a powder, and mix it in with what I'm going to use to coat it, which is this Tru-oil. So I can try it, put it in here. If they mix together, I think we're good to go. And if it doesn't, if it clumps up, then I either can't do it, or I could try putting a little acetone and see if that doesn't tame it a little bit. So that's what I'm going to do now. We'll find out if this is going to work. So technically my idea worked. I added a little dye to the Tru-oil, and as you can see, it definitely, well, I don't know if you can see or not, but it definitely added color. Remember in the last video I told you to save your scraps when you cut out your headstock. This is why. So before you try it on the actual neck, you can see it's got a very orange look to me, which is not really what I was going for. And I put it in this, the Okume, as we've learned, which is used a lot, I guess. Just something I learned doing this. Also kind of orange, and I put it on the inside here where I don't even think it would have a coating. I can't imagine they put a seal coating there, but even if it did, and I can see it, but again, it's got a very orange look to it. So the result is that it works, but whatever I did isn't what I want. So I'm going to play around with it off camera. I'm not going to have you watch me try a bunch of different colors and see if I can find something I like. But this does work if you're curious. It's not drastic, but of course I suppose that depends on how much dye you put in it. This was my ratio, 1 tablespoon to 1/8 teaspoon of, again, an aniline dye, powdered dye. This stuff. So I'm gonna play around, decide. I have a paint backup for this, or I might just, honestly, I might just put some Tru-oil on it because I do kind of like the look of it. But while I'm thinking through that, I'm gonna go ahead and start the process of putting the Tru-oil on the neck, because I know that's what I'm gonna do with that, and I always do that. Every one of my guitars that I built or put together has Tru-oil, and it is an absolutely fantastic oil for your neck. Feels great, easy on, it dries in a couple hours, and you can add another coat, and you can stop where you like, go as long as you want. It'll get shinier and shinier, or stop at a satin, which is what I always do because that's what I prefer for my neck. So I'm gonna do that, and I'll think this over. So there we go. All right, giving this a lot of thought, a ridiculous amount of thought for an $80 guitar. And I even have paint that I was gonna paint it. This type of wood is very porous, so if I were to sand back the sealer and then try to stain it, it comes out pretty blotchy, kind of like my little red one over here, which isn't bad, but it doesn't look that great either. Painting it, well, that's the easy way. But what I've never done is I've never just tried Tru-oil on wood for a natural looking guitar. So after all that thought, I've come right back to just put some oil on it. So that's what I'm gonna do. Yeah, Tru-oil is really a fantastic finish. What I love is it's super easy. You don't need any fancy equipment, tools. You can rub it on with your finger, a rag, whatever, and you just keep going until you're happy. So if you want a satin finish like I like on the neck, that just might be 3-4 coats. If you want it super high gloss, just keep adding. Some people put 12, 15. I've even seen some that said they put 20 coats on it. The very first coat will probably absorb a ton depending on whether there's a sealer on it, so you may need a lot on the first one, but otherwise just do thin coats. Let each coat dry for about
2 hours, and then add another one, and again, just keep going till you're happy. And the only other thing I would say is every other coat, maybe after every 2 or 3 coats, hit it with a little steel wool. The same triple lot stuff I used for the frets is perfect. That just kind of keeps it smooth, keeps it level, and then when you're completely done, it'll be just absolutely perfect, exactly like you like it. So it really is a great coating. All right, you can see here I added some custom logos just for fun.
All right, this is the last check-in before I start to assemble this thing, and I want to just give you an idea of what it looks like. I think, gosh, should have kept track. I want to say maybe 7, 8 coats on the body here. I don't know if this is picking it up well, but boy, this Tru-oil really does shine. It looks fantastic, and I actually want to do maybe a couple more. It's looking really good. The neck looks great. Very shiny on the headstock. It's actually a little shinier than I probably want here, but again, that's what's so great about Tru-oil. Make sure you have some quadruple lot steel wool, and you can just work it back to whatever shininess you want. So everything looks really good, and so I'm glad I went with the natural wood. Again, I always just sand it off and do something else, but since I've never owned a guitar that was just wood, this seemed like a cool time to do that. And then as far as what I'm going to do with this, I'm still deciding. The original humbucker, which is not an Invader but an Invader wannabe, I think is around $11,000 if I remember right. More importantly though, it does not actually have more than just a hot and a ground, so there's nothing you can do with this as far as any kind of parallel wiring or splitting or anything like that.
All right, so you can see here I'm going to a CTS jack. I've got a stacked pot, push-pull pot. This is that high output humbucker. And of course, I'm going with the black pick guard as well. I decided against a tone pot, at least for now, to keep a little more in the spirit of the Tom DeLong signature, but I did want to put that push-pull pot in to split the humbucker, perhaps for more like cleans, just to make it a little more versatile. In terms of fitment, I did need to do just a little bit of sanding away at the pickguard to get the humbucker in there. I'm guessing if it was an uncovered humbucker, it would have went in a little better. And I did have to drill out the opening for the new input jack, as it was just a little bit larger than the import version was. This is not a tutorial on how to solder. You can see I'm just looking online for the wiring diagram, and because it's only one pickup, it's about as easy as it gets. And here's what it looks like with everything but the solder to the input jack. And now with all of the soldering complete. Alright, with all the soldering done, it's time to reassemble the guitar. Should be no surprises here since the guitar has already been assembled. Obviously, I'm starting with the neck. Next, I'm aligning the pickguard and was surprised to see that 6 of the holes actually lined up. And then I just drilled some pilot holes for the remaining ones that did not line up. Next, I installed some new locking tuners made by Geiger. This is one of those more inexpensive brands that's never disappointed me. If I haven't mentioned it before, Geiger, Music Lily, and Wilkinson tend to be very good quality, inexpensive brands, and usually you can even find them on Amazon. And finally, this guitar is going to get a new nut and some stainless steel saddles for the existing bridge.
All right, before we get to the sound sample, just thought we'd review everything that was done. Started at the headstock. So the first thing was replacing the tuners with these Geiger locking tuners. Locking tuners are fantastic as far as making string changes quick and easy. The second thing I did was replace the nut. Again, this is a Geiger product. It's a bone nut or some kind of synthetic bone nut. This one was pre-slotted and I did absolutely nothing to it other than slide it into the slot. It was cut perfectly. That's pure luck, by the way. I don't know that it's ever happened before. As far as the string trees, they're just the ones that the kit came with, that bat wing style. They work perfectly fine. And then the only other thing there is I put on some graphics just for fun. And then the headstock, as well as the entire neck and guitar for that matter, are all coated with Tru-oil. And moving on down to the neck. The neck was surprising. No, I shouldn't say it was surprisingly good. This is the third kit. All three of them had really good necks. The usual things you would suspect. You got to straighten it with the truss rod adjustment. In this case, there was one fret down here that needed filed down a little bit. The fret ends were fairly good. There was just a few that were a little on the rough side, so you guys saw how I did all that. But I mean, overall, a fantastic neck for a sub-$100 guitar kit. Body-wise, obviously, I just chose to finish it, and I'm kind of glad that I did because I think it looks cool. And then just the Tru-oil, just like with the neck, is what I used. Now, the electronics are all new, and to be clear, there was nothing wrong with the other ones. I just wanted to try something different. So, very subjective here. I just changed it from a white to a black pickguard. I just kind of like the look a little bit better, a little manlier looking, I guess. The pickup, the Invader style pickup, actually sounded good, and the only reason I didn't keep it is it only had a hot, and a ground, and I wanted to split it. So this is just a cheap $20 high output, supposedly, pickup that I got from Amazon, but I did redo all the electronics. We got a push-pull Bourne's pot, and I just split it. So down is in the humbucker, up is the single coil. It does have a pure tone jack. I did keep this only because I didn't think to order a new one, and I had to drill it out a little bit to get that jack in there. And then the saddle, the plate is the original one, but I did replace all of the actual saddles. The bridge, excuse me, the plate's the original, but I did replace the saddle with these. Actually, they're pretty cool. They have little brass rollers on the end, and the way they're made, there's nothing sticking up, so very smooth. And then I just stuck, for now at least, with the strap locks that the kit came with, and even the strap that it came with. So overall, this is really a nice guitar. All of those parts, everything, including the kit, came to roughly $206. I didn't go deep in the weeds with sandpaper and finish, but all the parts and everything, and I'll put that up on the screen. All right, let's get to some sound samples. So my final thoughts. I already talked in the last video about my thoughts on these Leo Jaymz guitar kits. In general, I just think they're fantastic. They're a lot of fun to put together, even more fun to modify. And in the overall scheme of things, it's a relatively low cost way to get a pretty quality instrument. As far as this particular one, my thoughts, the modifications were definitely worth it. The tuners and the nut alone took the guitar into a whole different level of playability and enjoyability. One could argue whether this pickup versus the other pickup is better. This one allowed me to do the coil splitting, which does add a little more versatility, but it isn't a significant improvement in sound, in my opinion. And of course, the electronics are definitely an upgrade, but that's not something you can necessarily hear on a YouTube sound test. But I think, what was it, just a little over $200 for everything. So still, that's just an incredible deal for a guitar. So I enjoyed making this video. I'm trying to use the same backing track so I can do some comparison videos down the road. So sorry if you get bored with it, but I think that's actually pretty smart. And I already have some ideas for comparing this guitar to some other ones. So I hope you enjoyed this. I had fun making it. We'll see you next time.